This is my Fuji GFX 50R and I'm lucky enough to own this camera along with a 100 to 200mm lens and a 32 to 64. I believe that this is one of the best cameras that you can buy for landscape photography. The image quality that comes out of this 50 megapixel camera is second to none. So that begs the question, why on earth am I moving back to a full frame camera? The one reservation I had when buying this camera was the lenses. Now I'm not talking about the quality of the glass, there's no question mark there. These are outstanding at any focal length and at any aperture. In fact, I would go as far as to say these are the finest lenses that I've ever used. So again, I'll keep repeating myself, what am I banging on about? Is this not the perfect camera for the landscape photographer? Well, not quite. This is a Nikon Z7II with a 24 to 120 lens, and this is a 100 to 400 lens. Two lenses that are going to give me the focal range from 24mm all the way through to 400mm. And these two lenses weigh, and I checked this on my scales, exactly the same as these two lenses. This is my Fuji GFX 32 to 64 and 100 to 200. Now if we're talking full frame equivalents, this is about a, hang on, I've got this written down because I know I'm going to get so much grief in the comments. Yeah, so full frame equivalent 25 to 51 and hang on, 79 to 158mm. That's the full frame equivalent of these GFX lenses. Same weight, very similar size, 24mm, 400mm. That is so much variety, so much scope and so much versatility. It's just incredible. So let's forget about the 100 to 400 for a second. You'll know if you watch this channel that I like to do a lot of hiking and photography, a lot of camping out in the wild with my photography. And for that, you need a relatively compact and lightweight setup. And I tell you, I've been feeling it recently, man. I'm not getting any younger. So tell me, is there a more versatile lens than a 24 to 120? I can go on hiking trips and just take this one lens and be able to shoot most of what I see. And that's what it's all about. You don't want your camera gear getting in the way of your photography. When you're out hiking and you see a beautiful moment of light that's there 1 minute, gone the next, you need something fast at the ready that you can shoot. You don't want to be changing lenses, digging out the camera gear from your bag. You want it on you, ready to go. So I landed on the Nikon Z7II after a fair bit of research, but as you well know, I'm not the biggest expert when it comes to gear. So is this, what do you think basically? You know, I'm not a gear-centric channel. I try not to cultivate this kind of loyalty towards brands. You know, I much prefer it to be about the image rather than the gear and all that stuff. But I did look at the Canon R5, and I have a lot of history with Canon, and with that 100 to 500 it was almost a done deal. I also looked at the Sony A7R4, 61 megapixels I believe, and I tell you what, that camera's still on my mind. However, all of the reviews I read and the comparisons I looked at and the review videos on YouTube, the Z7II, in terms of image quality, dynamic range, recovery of highlights and shadows, resolution, all of that sort of stuff, the Z7II always came out just on top. Have I got it right? Have I got it wrong? Honestly, I'm not even just saying this. Genuinely, my audience, you guys, you are the experts. So yeah, well, let me know, please. So I guess the big question is, what am I going to lose by going from something like this, which, as I've said at the beginning of this video, is one of the finest cameras I've ever had the pleasure to shoot? What am I going to lose by switching to a smaller system? So this medium format, 51 megapixels versus full frame 46 megapixels, you know, and the sensor on this thing is, I mean, it's absolutely huge when we compare it to the Nikon's sensor, which is full frame. It's a lot smaller. You know, I am going to definitely lose something there, but how much am I going to lose? Well, I don't know. I don't know. That's why I'm here, and I'm going to go out very shortly and I'm going to shoot both cameras side by side. I'm not, you know, it's horrible outside. I'm not going to get any amazing images. I'm not even going to take that many images. Just want to take one or two shots, look at the files side by side and see, like, is there a massive difference? And you know, I'm not sure there will be. I have a theory. It's not groundbreaking, it's really not. But I think only the photographer gets to enjoy the resolution of their camera. Now you've got to hear me out. You'll know this, when you take an image and you get it on your computer, get into Lightroom, and you go in at 100% and it looks fantastic. You can see every crisp bit of detail, it's beautiful. But that's just you. Most of my images, if I look at it objectively, they're viewed on a phone or a tablet or a TV or a computer screen. They're viewed within a video at 72 DPI. I make prints, I have a book, and oh, little plug, you know, this video is not sponsored, so I'm allowed to do this. You know, I have print packs now. I have print packs available. Link in the description, feel free, you know, themed print packs, hand signed, 5 prints per pack, around about A3 in size, so a good size print. But anyway, I digress. My point is, whenever I print, it's rarely bigger than A2. So, you know, that begs the question, do you need all of these megapixels? Now, I was at an exhibition last week with Joe Cornish and Simon Baxter. It's a joint exhibition between those two photographers, both fantastic, well-renowned photographers. And in fact, their exhibition is at, where is it? It's at the National Moors Centre in Danby, and I think it's on until September the 12th. If you want to go and see one of the best photography exhibitions, go there. It's beautiful, and so much work and effort has gone into it. The framing, the printing, the images, the way, the curation of it, the way that it's laid out, man, those guys do not mess around. But my point is, they, you know, the images are so beautiful, but they are shot ranging from an Sony a7R II all the way through to a phase 150 megapixel IQ system. And I stood there at this gallery, at this exhibition, looking at the prints, and I was with Sean Tucker, and we both agreed that we could not tell the difference between the quality of the prints. You see, it's all about the image and not necessarily the print, if that makes sense. Well, I feel like I've been waffling on for ages, and if you're still with me, my God, thank you, well done. Well done. I'm making this video and I'm bored. I'm gonna head out soon with these two cameras, take a couple of images, but let's summarize, okay? I think that I will lose a little bit of image quality by going for this camera over the GFX. However, I don't think it will be a noticeable amount. I think only I will notice with the pixel peeping. What I think I will gain from switching to this camera is the weight saving, and of course the range, the focal range, 24 to 120, 100 to 400. That's it. And I'll be honest with you, it's less about the body and more about these two lenses. Man, this video could have been a heck of a lot shorter. Right, well, hopefully it's gonna stop raining soon. We'll head out, take a couple of images, and keep our fingers crossed. I hope I don't see a massive difference. I will definitely see a difference. I will see a difference, but how much? How much of a difference? I don't know. So we're gonna start off with the Fuji GFX 50R, which is my current main workhorse, my main landscape photography camera. I'm at f16 because I've got quite near foreground interest and obviously my background interest, which is the lighthouse. I'm going to focus on the lighthouse, just like so, and I'm exposing more so for the highlights. So I'm making sure that my highlights don't clip, and then I'm really not worried about the shadows. I'm at base ISO, 100 on the GFX, and well, that's it. So let me take the image.
I switched to the Z7II and matched my composition as closely as I could, which was at about 24mm, and shot at a slightly wider aperture of f11 with a base ISO of 64. I then shot another comp at around about 50mm before finally switching to the longer lenses and shooting a third image for comparison. But is there a difference? And if so, how much? So we are back at the office. I have the files on the computer and the results are in. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's pointless. There are too many variables. The Fuji was autofocused. The Nikon was manually focused. It was windy. The images, I've cropped them both to a 4:5 aspect ratio because that's what I would do in the field. And when you do that with the Fuji, it's already a 4:3 sensor, so you don't lose that many pixels. But with the Nikon's 3:2 sensor, when you crop to a 4:5, you lose far more pixels. So the Nikon is already fighting a losing battle. But looking at the files side by side with all those variables and unscientific shooting situations, I can tell you that the Fuji files, as expected, are superior, much sharper, better contrast, more detailed, but I do think that's down to the lens. The 24-120 is never going to compete with the 32-64 on a medium format. It's just not, and I knew it wasn't. I just wanted to see how much of a difference there was. And there is a difference, a noticeable difference, but a noticeable difference on a 5K monitor at 100%. And I stand by my argument earlier in the video that that isn't going to necessarily translate to real world situations. Now, what surprised me the most was the depth of field. I understood it as a smaller sensor giving you a greater depth of field. But with these images you can see here, look how sharp the foreground is on the Fuji file, both images focused on the lighthouse. Look how sharp that foreground is compared to the foreground in the Nikon file, which is really soft. Now there was a variation in aperture. The Fuji was at f11, the Nikon at f9, and that's to compensate for the sensor size to try and get a similar result as possible. Now I don't know if that was the right thing to do or not. I'm just going off experience, no scientific charts here. But that surprised me the most. Now when we move to the 100-400 lens, where I shot a close-up of the lighthouse, there the Nikon performed superbly. It was incredibly sharp. The file was beautiful and much crisper, sharper than the images shot on this lens. So I think I'm seeing a difference in lenses, and that is to be expected with a lens that goes from 24 all the way through to 120. But we are comparing medium format, specialized lenses, specialized camera with what is a very good all-round system. What I need to do and what I'm going to do is take this into the field on a road trip in my van for a week, and we're going to shoot a ton of content and a ton of images in all kinds of lighting situations with this camera. And I'm not going to compare them. You can't live your life comparing everything. If you compared what car you had to your neighbor's car, you'd just be forever miserable, unless you drive a 992 Carrera GT or something, but that's not the point. The point is you can't live your life comparing. You need to look at something on its own merits, and that is what we'll be doing with this camera over the coming weeks. So make sure you tune in next week for what will be a long trip to Scotland, and I'm going to visit Scotland's most remote island, where I'll be camping on there, and I'll be the only person camping on the entire island. That's all to come, so make sure you tune in for that. I have print packs available now in my shop, all hand signed, about A3 in size, well, cut from A3 depending on the aspect ratio, 5 prints per pack, presented in a beautifully embossed envelope. So if you want to support the channel, those are available on my shop. If you don't want to, fight bloody economies, what is it, a recession? Yeah, if you can't buy a print pack, that's fine. Just give the video a like, and if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to see in the field content. That's what we do here. So there we go, a very unscientific report from the world's worst camera reviewer. That's me. But I wanted to do this, and pretty much the results, not a surprise, apart from the depth of field. I'm actually super happy with that 100-400. Beautiful. 120, 24-120. Yeah, not so sure about that, but there is always a compromise. There's always a compromise when you've got that range. But God, I say I'm waffling. I'm going to go. Join me next week as we hit the road to Scotland, and it's all going to be on the Nikon Z7II. All right, cheers guys, and I will see you all next week.